I want to welcome you to the third PlainTalk conference. It's Connecting Competitive Communities. My name is Monty Ross, and I'm on the East Tennessee Quality Growth Board of Directors, and I have been working on the chair of the committee for the conference. And I just have to say, when I was looking, we were stuffing name tags last night at the last minute, of course, and just noticed all of the expertise that's sitting in this room is very impressive, and so I really appreciate that you're here, and I think you're going to have a really good day and learn a lot. I do want to call your attention to the posters that we have to the left and right of the stage. These are our sponsors, and we're very much appreciative of the help that our partners and our sponsors, very much appreciative of what they do to help us do the work that we do. In your packet, there is a list of the Board of Directors, East Tennessee Quality Growth Board of Directors, and more than likely, somebody on that list is the reason why you're here. So they do a wonderful work. They have been incredibly helpful with this conference when I would call on them to do things, so I want to thank them as well. There are some committee members that I would like to recognize very quickly. Dan Burnett, and can you please, or wave, Dan is back in the back. Amy Brooks, Jamie Dobbs, of course some might be still out in the hallway. Okay, good, Jamie's there. Julie Graham is our executive director. Mark Johnson, John Lamb is in the back. David Matlock, Jack Qualls, Kim Rea is our president. Finbar Saunders, and Todd Napier, and I want to thank them all especially. They were the ones that got my 3 o'clock emails saying, okay, what are we going to do about this? So I want to thank them all for their patience. So we're here to talk today. We're going to be talking about what you can do to take back to your communities that enhances their uniqueness, so that and what they need to do for planning. Christy Osteen is the executive director of Envision Utah, and she came to visit us a couple of years ago, and she said something. She said, you plan your day, you plan your vacation, you plan your retirement, and you plan your community. And you do this planning, when you do this, you don't start planning for retirement when you're 66. You start when you're 20. So you want to start many years early. When you do planning today, you're planning for 30 years from now. And these folks that are talking to you today are going to be saying, these are the things you need to think about now for 30 years from now. We do have a list of wonderful speakers, and we have a very tight schedule. So we will have time we're going to try to make time for question and answer and discussion, but we've got timekeepers, and they are rigid. We will be cutting people. I'm just, when you see this, that means we're going on. So please, our apologies, please, but we do need to stay on time. The restrooms, I do want to say, are if you go out these doors and turn to the left and then to the right, there's some restrooms there. You can also go straight up the stairs that are down the hall, go up the stairs, and the bathrooms are right there. Also, in case of an emergency, any of these doors will take you immediately outside. So if something happens that we need to get out of the building, please just go to the nearest door. If you go out this one, just go straight across the hall, and the same with these doors back here. Just go straight out and go to the parking lot out of the building. So thank you. And with that, we've got Mayor Tom Taylor is going to make our first introductions, and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. I am Tom Taylor, Mayor of the City of Maryville, and on behalf of Alcoa Mayor Don Mull and Blount County Mayor Ed Mitchell and Knoxville Mayor Madeline O'Hara, welcome to this conference. We know there are a lot of things you could be doing today, and we know that in these days of constrained budgets, you have to decide what conferences you attend, and we're especially appreciative that you've chosen to come to this one. I was really intrigued by the title of this, Connecting Competitive Communities. And we almost have a poster child of this in Blount County. We have the City of Maryville and the City of Alcoa, and about 30 years ago, we sent our city managers out to do battle every day with the other community. the marching orders every morning were go after Alcoa from our standpoint, and Alcoa's were go get Maryville. And we were knocking our heads against a wall. And at some point, and I'm not really sure when this cultural change took place, but we decided that it would be much better if we worked together in industrial recruiting, in education, and in making this community better if we tried to work together. And it has worked famously. Some examples. We built a library together that is the largest library that is in a non-metro area in the state and the most heavily used. We built a performing arts center on the Maryville College campus that is a technological wonder. We work together on industrial development. We have brought in $1 billion worth of capital investment in this county over the last year alone. So it pays off. And it makes life a lot easier too, I might add, when we're not fighting with each other. So I think if there's something that we can use as an example, that's what's happened here in Blount County is that we have chosen to work together and cooperate on projects rather than fight each other. I also want to reiterate the sponsors up here. You have the sheet in here. We say sponsors, but really it's charity. They get very little out of this. They get very little monetary return for it, and they sure don't get much appreciation and much thanks. And you know, as a city of Maryville, we have to decide whether this is something we're going to fund out of our budget that taxpayers are going to pay for, and then some of the companies that are involved here have to pull it out of their budgets, and it's right off the profit margin end of it. So. When you see folks from these companies and these governments, thank them. They make this possible, and we really appreciate what they're doing. We are going to dive in pretty quickly to the business of this meeting because there's a lot of information here. Not only do we have a wonderful group of folks here as participants, we have great speakers, and I think you're going to be pleased that you devoted this time. So I'm in charge of the first section, and we've got two speakers, and we're going to let them make short presentations and then give questions and answers. We've got about an hour for this section. And so I'm going to let Amy speak first, and then we'll have a short question and answer period. My timekeeper here with the signs will be directing us when we're going to be going to the next section. But then Tokes will have the second part, and I think even though they have a common theme, they are quite different in what you're going to hear. So first will be Amy New, and she was appointed in 2015 by Commissioner Randy Boyd as Tennessee's first Assistant Commissioner for Rural Development, and she has been leading efforts in the Department of Economic and Community Development to assist rural communities. She must have started when she was 10 or 11 because she's got a background in community development, agricultural, downtown revitalization, marketing, communications, has worked in local governments, Chamber of Commerce positions. She has probably one of the most varied backgrounds of any person I've run into. And so as Assistant Commissioner, what she really does is supervises Tennessee's community development programs. And she's got quite a plate full of these programs. She's got the 3-Star program, the Retire Tennessee, Select Tennessee, Main Street, Tennessee Downtowns, the National Flood Insurance Program, and she's doing ongoing work on the Memphis Regional Megasite development. So she will be speaking first. And then following her will be, and I will let you figure this out, is Adita Kumbo Amisha Kim. Close?
Close enough.
Tokes. He says to call him Tokes, and you know, a guy this size, I'm inclined to call him whatever he thinks is proper. And I've been instructed to really put the strong arm on him about timekeeping. Once he gets started, it's pretty much like trying to stop a train. But that's true. He is Commissioner of TDOT John Shore's Director of Environmental and Planning Bureau for the Chief of Environmental Planning. and he's got a varied background also. I started hearing about him from a friend of mine in Nashville who runs a bicycle program, and that was in the 90s that you started that bicycle program in Nashville. He's also a senior planner. He was director of Music City Moves for the Metropolitan Government of Nashville, and as we say, now serves with Commissioner John Schroer. In 2015, Tennessee Economic and Development Community launched an $8 million Rural Economic Development Fund, and it spearheaded a task force that's statewide, and it addresses rural development needs. And the Governor's Rural Task Force brings together 21 local, state, and federal partners to identify, design, and implement highly effective strategies to positively impact rural areas. And that's where we're going to start. As I said, Amy is the Assistant Commissioner for Rural Development, and so we're going to let her open the program. What we will probably do is after she makes her comments, let you ask her questions, and then we will go to Tokes and let him make his presentation. So, Amy?
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. I'll pull up my slide. Mayor, you covered about half of my notes there. It's not a bad thing, though. Let's see, where did we? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh, and I apologize, it has switched my font. Oh, it's up there. Okay, great. Thank you all so much for inviting me. As Mayor said, I do have a fairly varied background, but a little bit that the most thing that I'm proud of is that I grew up in Monterey. Who all knows where Monterey is? Yeah, if you've ever, exit 300. We have a great Dairy Queen, awesome twin burgers, really good wedges. This is the place to stop whenever you're heading from Nashville to Knoxville or going back. But I grew up on a hog, tobacco, and cattle farm right there. I-40 goes right through the middle of our farm at 305, 304, all of that. So I am so proud, and I claim East Tennessee. Most people say, no, you're from the Plateau. I'm like, no, really, it's pretty much East Tennessee. It's beautiful. But I'm so proud to get to come back this way. But as the mayor said, I was appointed by Commissioner Randy Boyd last year in January of 2015. And to tell you a little bit about why I was put into this position, I've been with ECD a little over 5 years. And I was telling Julie and a couple of people earlier at Monty that I was actually about to accept a position at the University of Tennessee to work within their Certified Economic Developer program. And Commissioner Boyd came in and he said, well, why are you leaving? And so I'm telling this personal story. Hopefully I won't get in trouble for this. But why are you leaving? I said, well, it's been hard. We've had economic development and community development, but I feel like we don't have as much of a focus on our rural communities like we should. And we're not investing in those community development efforts like we should. And he was like, well, you're not going to go anywhere. I would love for you to stay here, and work with the department and help to reorganize and restructure and build out those programs so that we can have that focus. And as you all see in the news all the time, Tennessee is doing great in economic development. We were 2 years in a row best state for economic development, named by Business Facilities and by Site Selectors magazines for having the #1 site selector program in the nation. Last year we had over 26,000 job announcements. I mean, I could keep going with all the accolades that we've had, but the main reason that I'm in my position is because that success that we've had in Tennessee obviously hasn't been shared equally across our state. And making sure that we do focus on those rural communities so we can have that type of success in those areas. Just to paint a picture, it's not turning to the next one. Am I supposed to have a clicker to make it go forward? I'm seeing it on here. I did. Okay, it's not changing. It's on this screen, but it's not up there. I wanted to show you the map. So I'm going to show you a map that it's a federal economic designation map that's done by the Appalachian Regional Commission, which you all are very familiar with ARC because it covers this region. They do this study each year that shows a breakout of 5 different categories based around the unemployment rate, the poverty rate, and the per capita income. And the map that it's going to show that 21 of our 95 counties are federally designated as distressed. And what that means is those 21 counties are in the bottom 10% of the nation in those 3 categories that I just said, the poverty rate, unemployment, and per capita income. And so that alone, just hearing that is, we have to be focusing on these areas. We can't just leave them alone and let the downtowns or those communities die. You'll also see that in our at-risk, we have, and I can't remember, it's 31, 32 of our counties that are federally designated as at-risk. That's more than half of our counties that, I may have to just flip the computer around. We'll pass it around here we can see it.
I'm so sorry.
They are in, so more than half of our state is in that bottom 2 tiers of the Appalachian Regional Commission's federal designation. So having a focus specifically on those is, there it is. Okay, I may, if I do this, will it mess it up? Okay, we'll just leave it in slide. Can you all see it? I'm afraid I'll lose it.
Yeah, right there.
Oh, okay, there it is. So, as you all can see, they're kind of clustered together. And probably, there's a handful, I'm looking around the room to see that some that do fall in those designations that are here in this room today. And that is what we see a lot of times, is that they are clustered together. And that's another thing in making sure that when we are focusing, that we're pulling regionally, those resources. So, again, when I was put in this position and the commissioner's like, go for it. Everyone has probably met Commissioner Randy Boyd, who's from this area, but he doesn't let you sit down too long. You have to. We always got to be moving and making sure that we're doing the most for our community. So he's like, what are we doing? What are our initiatives? And so first we got to go out and we got to listen. And actually, I'm looking around the room too. Many of you came and sat down with me when I did the listening tour. It was a little over a year ago. Went across the state, 25 different regions, nearly 300 community leaders came to the room, and we talked about what the needs are. Because one, from the state level, we don't want to just push down a bunch of programs that aren't going to work. So we want to make sure that whatever you need, you're communicating that to us, and we can develop the programs around that. One thing that I specifically noticed is when I came back, I was like, there is no way that just ECD can do all of these things. This has to be a team approach. This has to be, as Commissioner Boyd says, Team Tennessee coming to the table, and which is the Governor's Rural Task Force that was put together in August of last year. 21 different state, local, federal agencies coming together to make things happen. But it doesn't stop there. So we met for about 3 or 4 months, and we started to come up with our working programs. And you'll see up here that those 6 areas, and about probably everyone in this room touches all of these areas in some way. These 6 areas are the areas that we're focusing on within the Rural Task Force. We have broken out into subcommittees that are representative of USDA, the Tennessee Bankers Association. Is anyone in here on one of the subcommittees? I saw some name tags out there. I may have to get onto them because, like E.L. Morton, we're going to call him out and tell him that, right here, Campbell County. But Campbell County, E.L. Morton is represented on our tourism and conservation for that region, Campbell and Scott. We have University of Tennessee and many local leaders who are on these. So education, workforce, community leadership, retail and site development, health, agriculture, entrepreneurship and small business, and the tourism and conservation. So skip to this. One other thing that you may have heard about this year, that we did get 100% passage. That is correct, isn't it? 100% passage on this bill. And we are so very excited because when we did the listening tour, we kept hearing ECD just has such a big focus on the big communities, and everything that we're doing for job tax credit is just focused on the large job announcements. What can we do to help the smaller ones? And I'm actually going to skip forward. This is a map of our tax tiers, and it's very, when I showed you the first one, it showed you the distressed counties. We took our tax tier map, and originally we had 3 areas. We had tier 1, 2, and 3. And to have more of a focus on those distressed areas to help bring them out, within our Rural Economic Opportunity Act of 2016, we added a 4th tier to represent those distressed counties. We also restructured the job tax credit, the job enhancement credits. And the tier 4 counties will now have to create 10 jobs over 5 years and be eligible for the job tax credit, where in the past they had to create 25 jobs over 3 years. And we all know that's a little bit more difficult for our rural communities to come up with 25 jobs. A 10 or 15 job announcement is just as important as a 100 job announcement in Knoxville, and there's a lot of Knoxville people in here. I'm not hitting on Knoxville at all, but in more of our urban areas. So making sure that we are supporting those entrepreneurs and small businesses, because we know that those who were those 100 and 200 job announcements, they did start as a small business or entrepreneur. And they weren't able to get where they were if they didn't have support in the beginning. So as you can see, the others, tier 3s, we moved that to 20 jobs within 5 years, and our tier 2s and tier 1s stayed at the 25 jobs over 3 years. The third thing that the Rural Economic Opportunity Act of 2016 did was to add a rural development fund. And as the mayor said, we rolled out an $8 million rural development fund in October at the governor's conference, and we kind of, Commissioner Boyd says we begged, borrowed, and we didn't steal, we borrowed money. But to create this rural development fund and roll it out in October, because one, we knew we couldn't wait until after legislation, or after the session, to start rolling out these programs, and also make sure that we were going to have a return on investment and that they were working. So we have established this $10 million rural development fund. Again, as you can see, there's the tax tier map. But what the rural development fund is, it supports the areas that are in the bolded areas here on our map within the rural development. And I need to probably get a new bio because it has changed quite a bit since then, but in the last year. But you can, that's our rural development programs. We have areas in site development that we focus on, entrepreneurship and community development. Across the bottom is broadband. I think Julie said we may have some questions about broadband, and we will, because it's the foundation of all those areas and it supports it. And I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing there. But in general, some things that we added within the site development was the property evaluation program that supports our Select Tennessee certified sites. Who all in here has a certified site in their community? See, 1, 2, okay. So we have a few in here. The Certified Sites program, it is like taking your basketball team and getting a bye, going from the Sweet 16 to the Final Four when it comes to economic development. It puts your site in the front because you've already done the due diligence that it takes for a company that's looking for a site. They don't have to take the time to go through all of the geographic surveys and looking for bats in the area, for those habitats. It really, really makes a big difference when companies come. But the property evaluation program helps to identify those sites in a community, and more specifically in our rural communities, it's great because they come in and say, well, this is the site in particular, this is the site that you should take to your county commission or your city council. This is the most attractive, the one that will turn the dial the quickest, and that you should invest in, so that you don't go and spend $400,000 or $500,000 on a piece of property that's has no infrastructure ran to it, that's not even close to a road. We're going to have to move some wetlands. I mean, they come in and they do this type of evaluation for you. The site development grant, this is kind of the this is the large thing that we rolled out this past year, was $6 million to help support those sites. Is that another part that I'm almost out of time when the lights start going out? Oh no, I was like, no one go to sleep on us. So the site development grant is $6 million out of the 8 for this past year, and it will be another round coming up later this year that will help support those sites and to make sure that they do have the infrastructure. Because a lot of times we've never, before this past year, we have never been able to invest in our sites without a bird in hand, without a company coming there that has jobs and a capital investment attached to it. And this is something that so many of you, I'm looking around the room, so many of you said, if we could just have a little bit of help so that we can have those people come to our community and that we don't have to pass up an AFI or filling out, bringing them there. Help us get that infrastructure to that site so we can show it. So that's what we did. We rolled out the site development grant, and they're $500,000 grants per community to help them do that, either bring in the water or bring in a road. There's so many great ones. We're actually going to be announcing 16 of those in the next couple of weeks. And I couldn't be more excited to do that. And I see some around here that are in the room that may get some of those. The other areas are entrepreneurship, and I have like 3 minutes, so I'm going to skip through this quickly. The Main Street Entrepreneurship Grants, how many Main Streets do we have in this room? Or Tennessee Downtowns? Raise your hands high. To be proud. Okay. See if you. Tennessee Downtowns program is kind of like our Main Street program on training wheels or light. I mean, it is incredible because you get to learn everything possible about the Main Street program and the importance of our downtowns. And so why are our downtowns important? I was in downtown Sevierville yesterday, and absolutely beautiful. I said, I've got to go see the Dolly statue. Take me out there. And he said, every time that we've had any type of businesses come here to Sevier County, they always want to come see the Dolly statue. It's a destination. And our downtowns are also, you don't go to the mall to figure out where your history or your culture or learn about your community. You go to your downtown. And so we have to make sure that we're investing in our downtowns, that we're always revitalizing them and taking care of them. Let's see. The tourism enhancement. So the tourism grants, this is another area that we haven't had as much of a focus on. We do have a great partnership with the Department of Tourist Development, Commissioner Kevin Triplett. But when we went out and did the listening tour, a lot of people said, we are not meant for industrial recruitment. Our bread and butter and our economic development is all wrapped up in our tourism. We have these God-given assets in our community that we need to market and that people come to. They spend their money when they come to these. How can we help enhance those rather than focusing on our sites or our green fields? And so we rolled out a tourism enhancement grant. It was a $1 million program, up to $50,000 per community, to enhance things like whether it's a boat dock or wayfinding signage for communities like a Sevierville, when you want to get people off the interstate and down to the main street so they can find the Dolly Parton statue and have their picture made. Things like that, just things that push people into the communities. So those are, and I'm completely out of time. But I did, and I will tell a joke too. I said, please let me go before Toke so I have time to talk.